Imagine a world where biotech breakthroughs, mental health revolutions, and climate change solutions are not just ideas, but realities being forged today by the world's best scientists, entrepreneurs, and investors. Welcome to the Best of 2023 special episode where we uncover stories of innovation, determination, and visionary thinking that are shaping our future. In this episode, I feature 5 extraordinary conversations from last year that left me inspired and amazed. Join me as we revisit Philip Basque's Christmas Eve breakthrough in biotech, Matias Serebrinsky's insights on the future of mental health, Kara Moore's revelations of New Jersey's economic transformation, Dr. Kimberley R. urgent message from the front lines of climate change, and Yair Reem's deep dive into the green gold rush of climate tech. Each story is a piece of the puzzle in understanding the complexities and wonders of our world. If you are intrigued by what you hear, I invite you to dive deeper into the full episodes. And don't forget to like, comment, and share to help me bring more thought-provoking speakers and stories to you. Subscribe for more insights that can enlighten, challenge, and inspire you. Now, let's begin our journey with the first extraordinary clip. Let's step into the world of biotech entrepreneurship with Philip Basque, CEO of Nanotemper. In this remarkable tale, we are transported back to Christmas Eve 2009, where dedication and the breakthrough moment intertwine. This isn't just a story about scientific experiments, it's about the resilience and vision that transformed Nanotemper. Listen closely as we reveal how one pivotal sale set the company on an extraordinary path to success.
One thing I can remember very well was how we sold the first device. So we did a lot of demonstrations to research group, also to companies, and I think 30 of them failed, but we kept on trying. We really had a strong belief, and since there was this company in Munich, it was Grelux, and they gave samples to us and told us, if you get the sample running, we will buy a device from you. So I can very well remember I was sitting, it was the 23rd December of 2009, so day before Christmas. I was sitting in the lab on the microscope, a very basic setup, and I was doing the experiments and was working really hard until the night because I want to get it finished to visit my parents for Christmas. So we finished the experiments there, sent the data to Grelux and went for Christmas and New Year's Eve. In January 2010, Grelux phoned us, you convinced us, we will buy.
Super.
And then they bought the device before we had it. They just transferred money to us, and with this money we bought the parts for the first device. And we built the device, we shipped it to them in March, and from the money we got, we bought the parts for the next 2 devices.
Cool.
And since this time we are profitable. And I think in 2010 we already sold 30 devices.
That's super. It reminds me of, I think it was both Apple and Microsoft. Didn't they start similar? I think they also had their first customers, got some upfront payments, and then produced what they needed to produce. I mean, when we stay a little bit at this, what you did from 2008 to 2010, getting your first customers in, basically product market fit. When I look on the market before 2023, and think about my experience with incubation program, acceleration programs, it always felt to me that the utmost priority was finding investors. Also, when I read through LinkedIn these days, maybe it's just my bubble, but there are a lot of information, how to find your investor, how to pitch to investors, how to get your company fitting with the investor's need, and vice versa. And you went down a different route. You found customers. In your opinion, when you look at the market today, what's your advice to entrepreneurs? Would you rather go for, if you just have to make a decision, would you rather go for product market fit in this economic environment, or would you also spend some resources on finding investors to move your company forward?
My advice would always be focus, make a decision. So it's about look inside yourself. What do you want? Is independence and freedom important for you? Or want to have, maybe become rich, or want to have a lot of money? I mean, venture capital, private equity dominates the news. So social media companies are backed by venture capital, private equity, and we read social media. So it's obvious that they will talk about funding, how they've been founded, because they have to promote their own story. But this is not the only way. I mean, important is that you have a choice. You have the choice between bootstrapping or venture capital. Both are okay. You have to be aware, in venture capital, you have to make them rich. They give you money, that you make more money out of it than others can do. This is why they give you money and they want to sell. And then you have to think, okay, I have the first venture capital. They want to sell in 5 years. What happens then? The next venture capital guy or company buys it. And then the next, then you have to do an IPO, or a strategy guy, company buys you, or you're bankrupt. These are the options. You have to be aware, if you start with venture capital, you take this route. This is absolutely fine. This is a good route, but you have to be aware what you do. And the other route is, maybe it's a bootstrapping route. You may grow slower, but you grow with the money of the customer. And this money, you earned it before you get it, with the products you build. And you really own the money. You can do whatever you want with this money. Then you have freedom and independence. Both sides, not better or worse. I think you see my tendency. We go the bootstrap way. I think we tried the venture capital way. We looked for money. No one was giving to us. We was not good in presenting. But you have to make a choice. I think it's the worst thing you can do is following both routes in parallel, because then you don't focus. You don't focus on product. You don't focus on your pitch decks and getting some money. So you have to take a decision. You have to risk not to do everything. And this is the most important thing. What a founder has to do, what a CEO has to do, you have to take the hard decisions. You have to say, no, I'm not doing this. I go this route. And then you fail, and you stand up, and maybe you take the other route. But when you try something, you have to fully try it, not just a little bit. It's full focus on the one thing. Really push it, that it works. And if you then fail, it's fine. You tried it. But it's really about trying the one thing.
Next, we delve into the evolving world of mental health with Matias Serebrinsky. This powerful segment confronts the shifting societal attitudes towards mental health and the growing need for innovative solutions. Matias sheds light on a startling reality, the global prevalence of mental health disorders. It's a compelling conversation that emphasizes the urgency for transformative approaches in mental health care. Let's listen and reflect on the role of innovation and technology in this critical field.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a tale of two cities, or it's something like that, where on one side, there is lower stigma and people are more open to talking about it. And arguably the younger generations are leading the way there, where, on TikTok, on Instagram, and social media, and in general, they're a lot more open about their struggles with mental health and, the value of going to therapy, for example. So that is very promising. And I think as so many things, young folks lead the way and they move kind of like where something is on the through the Overton window, so they make it more acceptable, and that is definitely happening today. And then the other side of the story is that there's never been a higher need for mental health solutions because more and more people are suffering with mental health disorders. We're in a society that is literally making us sick. There's a new study that just came out that says that half of the kind of world population will suffer with a mental health disorder. And mental health disorders are rapidly becoming the largest burden of disease for society. So these diseases or illnesses are more costly than cancer and cardiovascular disease and pulmonary disease and all of these things. So depends if you see the glass half empty or half full. What do you decide to take? My perspective is that on one side, I'm optimistic because we're finding better solutions and people are kind of like more open to it, but also it's not trending in the right direction. So this will require a lot of work, a lot more, more work than what any entrepreneur or investor can do. This will require changes in policy, changes in kind of like incentives. This is a complete, housing, economic equality. This is something much bigger than the biotech sector.
Yeah, I believe that. I think it was Woody Allen who said the glass is half full, but full with poison. I think it was in the movie Scoop. You said one out of two will suffer from mental health. The number that I find with Google search is 1 out of 4. And it was Christian Angermayer in one of his posts last year who said it's basically everybody who will suffer at one point in time from a mental health crisis in their lives. How do you position your fund in this area?
Yeah, that's an interesting observation because the way I see mental health is a spectrum that goes from disease to thriving. And so obviously the DSM, the kind of like diagnostic manual for psychiatric conditions, defines what it is to have a mental health disorder, being depression, anxiety, PTSD, schizophrenia, bipolar, right? But the fact that you don't have a mental health disorder doesn't mean that you wouldn't benefit from some of the interventions that could make you live a fuller life. Because ultimately, the goal for all of us is not just to survive, right? It's not just to, be free of disease, but to thrive, to do great. And so I agree with Christian's kind of take on the fact that the addressable market is everyone, but from a coverage reimbursement perspective, where the value is and where the market is kind of like focused on disease. And so what you said, these are just statistics or not even that, but estimations. And so it used to be 1 in 5. Then during the pandemic, that moved to 1 in 4, 1 in 3. Now they're saying that it's 1 in 2 people that will suffer from a mental health disorder. So I pay less attention to what that specific number is, and I pay more attention to like how it is trending. And unfortunately, it's not trending in the right direction. So I hope that answered your question, but maybe you kind of want to double click on something else. I feel like you asked a couple more things that maybe I didn't address.
Yeah, sure. I think anxiety. At what point would you say someone is part of the addressable market? What are the signs that people should look out? How do you define a mental health crisis for your fund?
Well, we focus on interventions that can be or will be paid by someone, right? So that is kind of like the broad definition. In a very simple or straightforward way, if you have a diagnosis of depression, anxiety, and whatnot, that is covered by insurance. And so we kind of like look for treatments that will be covered by insurance. So that is kind of the most simple one. But what we're focusing more and more today is kind of direct to consumer approaches as well, and this idea of the betterment of the people that are doing well. And so a great example of this is neurotechnology. So in neurotechnology, you have some approaches that need to be prescribed and are FDA regulated, but then you have different approaches, one being TDCS, so basically low-level electrical stimulation that doesn't require a prescription, right? And so these approaches, are proven to help with ADHD, for example, but also for folks that want to improve their cognition or attention, it could be useful as well. And so arguably from an investment perspective, the bar is higher there because there's this idea of what is a painkiller and what is a vitamin. And usually common wisdom says that people will pay for painkillers, but they're less likely to pay for vitamins, right? Something that it doesn't have this acute need. And so that is a way that we also think of where we stand and what we back and what we consider something that is investable. And to your point, what is a mental health crisis is like, okay, even if something is not really considered within, a diagnosable disease, what would it take for someone to pay for it, right? Mm. And then it just varies by company. It's a little bit harder to put hard and fast rules there, but I do believe that there will be things that will be paid by consumers that are related to mental health. The best examples today of this is the meditation apps like Calm and Headspace. These are huge companies, and people are increasingly paying for them. And when I say increasingly paying for them is, number one, more people are subscribing to these apps. But what is fascinating is that these apps are increasing prices without really seeing a lot of people drop. And so the willingness to pay for mental wellness technologies is higher than what we initially thought.
The third highlight takes us to New Jersey with Kara Moore from NIEDA. Here, Kara unveils how New Jersey is reshaping economic development with ingenious financial strategies. Discover how the state's unique program is empowering companies, particularly in the biotech sector, with essential capital through innovative means. This segment illustrates New Jersey's pioneering approach to supporting growth and progress.
States have that program, but it's something that I think one of our companies, the founder would say, it's like having free money, to have.
How does it work for the companies exactly? Can we describe it a little bit deeper, a little bit in more detail?
Sure. So there are certain criteria you have to meet to be qualified in the program. And I don't want to go into those specific details, but essentially those net operating losses or unused R&D tax credits that you have for the state of New Jersey, you can apply to sell off that tax offset. So roughly that 9% tax offset of those losses will give you a certificate that you can sell them on the open market. So there are public companies who want to buy those tax credits to save on their books. So it's roughly 92 cents on the dollar that they can sell it off in the open market. So companies like PSE&G, Bank of America tend to be purchasers of these tax credits. So we open that window up once a year, every May to June. We're going through our applications right now. The applications look really good. I was able to bring quite a few biotech companies to be aware of this program. And then we'll announce the people who were able to succeed in, I think, October, November-ish, and they'll be able to start gaining access to that capital.
Yeah, this is extremely beneficial for life science companies. I mean, usually they accumulate losses in the first 5 to 10 years of their existence and then have these one-off deals where they sign off a deal with the pharma industry that usually has 100 millions or several hundred millions or billions, but before everything is a loss. And when they can turn it into capital and sell their losses, it's beneficial for other companies, and it definitely helps them to move their science forward.
Correct. In fact, a company that took advantage of the program for the first time last year, Iveric Bio, they're in New Jersey. They were just acquired this year by Astellas Pharma, for about $5.9 billion. So we like to think that we had a hand in that. Another company that had taken advantage of the program, Prevention Bio, they focus on diabetes. Diabetes treatment, and they were just acquired by Sanofi this year for I think $2.9 billion. So it's rewarding to see that our programs were helpful to keep these companies going, hopefully, and then be good target acquisitions for some of these large pharma companies.
It's an investment from New Jersey into the companies that later pays off. I think when a company then is acquired by the industry, they also have to pay taxes, of course, then at the end of the day. Did you ever do a calculation of how beneficial it is for your tax system to invest money via your programs into the companies at the earlier stages and then getting taxes back at later stages?
I don't know if that analysis has been done, but it's a good idea to see what that ROI might look like. And it's probably been done, and we have our economist team who might be working on something like that. But it would be good even to break out just the life science area and do some analysis.
This would be absolutely interesting. I think it's very beneficial. We had a similar system here in Austria. It was atypically silent partnerships where private persons, small businesses could also acquire the losses, invest in the companies, and then use the losses to get tax breaks. And I think it's tremendously beneficial for the states and for the countries in Europe. Here it's more countries, because the deals at the end of the day are really huge. And on the way up to the deal, companies pay other taxes. I mean, they also have to pay taxes for their employees. They also pay taxes on housing when they rent something, when they acquire assets to run their businesses. So I think there must be a positive ROI. No doubt about it.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's just the tip of some of the programs that we have available in the state. And just getting the word out, and hopefully some of your listeners will be then interested in exploring New Jersey as a place to set up shop or invest in some of the companies in New Jersey.
To benefit from these programs, the companies must have their headquarters there, or can they also have subsidiaries?
Yes. So the requirements are you have to have under 225 employees in total across the world. And then it's based on your year of formation of how many employees you need in the state of New Jersey. So if you're under 3 years old, you need at least one employee in the state of New Jersey. Under 5 years old, you need 3 to 5 years old, you need 5 employees in the state. Over 5 years old, you need 10 employees in the state of New Jersey. And so there's some more criteria, but basically that's the summary. So it's that 225. A lot of public companies take advantage of the program, and they just have to hit that threshold of under 225 employees to leverage.
Now join me in an urgent conversation with Dr. Kimberley R. from NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab. Kimberley brings the immediacy of the climate crisis into sharp focus, discussing how climate change is not a distant threat, but a pressing, current reality. Her insights, based on recent studies, paint a picture of a rapidly changing world, one where immediate and decisive action is crucial. This segment is a wake-up call, highlighting the critical need for a global awareness and response to the escalating challenges of our changing climate.
There have been a number of papers that have come out very recently about tipping points, which is what we call when the ecosystems functionally switch to a new state or collapse or start releasing carbon, whatever it looks like for that particular ecosystem. The Earth is so complicated. If you just think about, again, your stomach, you don't know everything that's going on in your stomach. You don't know all the microbes and what they're all doing. And then you magnify that times the size of the entire planet. It's really difficult to understand everything that's happening all at the same time. And then now we're adding unknown dynamics. We're adding a forcing that we haven't seen before in the form of climate change. So we're working really hard to forecast what the changes are, but I am not a fortune teller. So I'm not able to give you a specific date. Just like I probably wouldn't be able to give you a specific date when, something in your life is going to happen to you. I can't read the future. All we can do is we can look at the patterns and see the signs of what's going on the planet and make our best guesses as to when those things would change or could change based on the patterns that we understand.
But I come from business management, economics, and I have a tendency of oversimplifying things and trying to simplify things to understand it better. So we are talking about a real pressing problem. It's not, when we talk about the time scale, it's not something that can happen potentially in 400 years. It's a real pressing problem that should be solved in our lifetimes and not somewhere in the future.
A paper just came out in Nature saying that some researchers ran different models and they believe that we will have 1.5 warming in the next 2 years, which will cause, again, more further instability of ecosystems. And that could push us to 2 degrees, which is the absolute worst that we've forecast within the next few decades by 2050. So we're talking about something that really needed to be taken care of yesterday.
No, yesterday. Good. 2 degrees doesn't sound really dangerous to me. What are the consequences of a 2 degrees increase in temperature on the planet?
Well, they could be catastrophic depending on the location, right? So we have not hit 1.5 degrees yet. We're already seeing a lot of snow that is gone in the Alps. We're seeing droughts across Europe. We're seeing flooding and very strong storms throughout the Americas. We're seeing significant loss of sea ice. We're seeing melting and thawing of permafrost and glaciers, like you said. And that all means potential sea level rise. So we're not even at 1.5 yet. And there are already this year or last year, $300 million in damages per region in the US. And then there were 30 million people who were affected in the US directly by climate disasters. So I'm just throwing all these numbers at you to basically try and help understand that things are already kind of serious. And we're asking for them to be more serious, more bad. And it seems to me that in my personal life, if things were already going badly, I would do everything I could to make it better, not to just continue making things worse.
You mentioned that we see a decrease in biodiversity. So far as my understanding goes, we need this biodiversity as a human race to live a healthy life so that we have enough to eat. When biodiversity is decreased and we see species going extinct, at the end of the value chain, nutrition-wise, is the human race. So is there a potential risk that we also have to face extinction of the human race if we continue on that path?
So I think that you're looking at this from a very economics perspective, which I value. There is more to biodiversity than the value chain, right? Like we are an intrinsic part of our ecosystem. Everything that you breathe, everything that you drink, like you said, everything that you eat, everything that you see is part of the biodiversity and the ecosystem. Think how lonely it would be if we woke up and there were no birds, just none. Yeah. Think how weird it would be if in the summer the leaves barely grew. We're talking about the potential loss of all of our friends and relations across scales who are plants and animals. This is much more serious than not having adequate resources. They also have intrinsic value, right? Everything on this planet has a value. And I think it's more than time for us to realize that as humans, that all of these things that we have evolved with have importance and they have value, regardless of what service we believe that they provide, because they provide much, much more to us than we probably understand.
And finally, we explore the innovative world of climate change solutions with Yair Reem of Extantia Capital. In this thought-provoking dialogue, Yair discusses the challenge of achieving net zero emissions. He articulates the limitations of current technologies and underscores the vast potential for new developments. This conversation is a deep dive into the technological innovations needed to bridge the gap in our fight against climate change. It's a candid exploration of the scale of innovation required for one of the most pressing challenges of our time.
And the most important that I want to emphasize is that there is a lot of social inequalities here. So basically, the developing world is going to be hit much harder than the developed world. And that is very unfortunate. And that in itself will trickle down because we will see much more massive immigration waves. So everything we see today in the Mediterranean, this is like a small preview of what we're going to see if millions of people will have to migrate. Yeah, so that in itself is going to do a lot of debates, not to say local wars, etc. So I don't want to picture a doomsday, but definitely it's going to be very, very different than what we know it today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the migration probably, when I look at the newspapers these days, I think a cultural clash is already there. And if you scale it up and don't do it a little bit more smoothly, probably has also effect. Is half a degree such a huge difference in your opinion?
It is. It's definitely there are very nice tables that show that everything, which types of birds are going to vanish from the ecosystems. And as you know, this is not necessarily about the single species that is extinct. This is more about the ecosystem effect that is happening.
There are two ways to tackle the problem then, in my opinion. So one way is just prohibit traveling. You say, please stay at home. You are not allowed to purchase anything anymore except what you need, so that you drive down consumption and less travel and less logistics. And the other side is technology and innovation. In your opinion, what's the role of technology and innovation? What's the contribution that will bridge that gap of 50%? Right. How much impact will it have?
Right. So let's start with what you just said. There is behavioral change and there is technology innovation. Now, it is not that we don't believe that we should all be more global citizens of the world and good corporate citizens. Yeah, we have to. We have to think more about how we consume things. Do we need to consume everything that we consume? Can we recycle? Do we really have to fly for our next vacation? Et cetera, right? So we have to be better consumers and more responsible consumers. This will come. The impact of that is estimated at getting to net zero, maybe 10%. The challenge is that as much as we want to, the world is not going vegan. Okay, people are not going to stop flying. If you look at the Paris air show that just ended, it was announced that all the airline company, the OEMs, the Boeing and Airbus, are booked out for the next 30 years or so in terms of plane deliveries. So people are not going to stop flying, and people are not going to consume it. And you know what? It may not be an equal and just demand to say, hey, middle classes in developing countries, now that you're finally middle class and you can allow to consume it, you're not allowed to. Yeah? So this is not necessarily a just transition. And we have to make sure that the transition is makes justice to everybody. So I believe that it's more on us, again, coming back to the technologists in the room, is to come up with solutions that enabling life, but are more sustainable to the planet. So that we can continue with the growth, and growth is not necessarily a bad thing, but it has to be decoupled from pollution. It has to be sustainable growth, green growth. And I'm sure that with the right solutions, we can definitely go in the right way. We need to find maybe cultured meat that is very similar to meat. Maybe we need to invade cows that don't burp and fart anymore. So airplanes that are clean, be it sustainable aviation fuel, be it hydrogen-based planes, and you name it. Yeah, but it's about us to find the solutions, because it's very, very difficult to rely on human race or human nature to change.
And now, as we conclude this special Best of 2023 episode, I hope these clips have sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore the full stories behind each segment. These conversations are just a glimpse into the wealth of knowledge and insights my guests have to offer. For more in-depth explorations, visit the full episodes and join us in uncovering the solutions, innovations, and visions shaping our world. And remember to like, comment, and share as we continue on this journey of discovery and understanding together. And now, have a happy and very healthy and successful 2024.